we nearly made one big mistake. And that mistake was buying the iPhone XR. And here's why it's a mistake. I was going to buy an iPhone XR, possibly, thinking of it. And then these points occurred. It cost £50 more than what I currently have, which is the 8 Plus, which is obviously 1 point. It costs £50 less than what the 8 Plus costed on launch, which is good, admittedly. Doesn't change whether it's worth it or not. It has a single camera on the back, which tries to act like some sort of dual camera, but then, to be honest, is that not what we've seen on phones such as the fake Android iPhone clones? So maybe, and probably Apple's one will be a lot better, but at the same time, is that not what we've seen before from iPhone clones? Clearly it must be, because that's what they try and do, and install that fake camera on the back, which obviously Apple won't do, but it still kind of means they're taking the route of the clones. Now that could be a totally wrong statement, and if it is, then, you know, whatever. You can tell me that, but there are kind of a few reasons why it's pointless. I mean, it's an LCD display, 6.1 inches, so it's bigger than all the Plus iPhones. All the Plus iPhones are having 1080p displays, right? And this phone doesn't. It literally has this sort of... It's not even 1080p, right? I'm not 100% sure, but it's obvious and everyone knows it. It's something by 1792, which sounds high, but it's not, for the simple reason that other measurement is lower, which kind of defeats the point anyway, especially across a 6.1 inch space as well. I mean, you've got all of that space, but not even a 1080p display, which kind of just defeats the point. Like I said, it's pointless, and just why, I guess. You also get Face ID, which, yes, very, very good. Point is there, you know, it's meant to be there. But then at the same time, the iPhone 10, and here's, I guess, where we get onto why the iPhone 10 was discontinued, but at the same time, why the iPhone 10 being discontinued hasn't made a difference, because, well, let's explain. The iPhone 10 being discontinued means only one thing. It's been discontinued, but people are going to want to upgrade, like the Apple fans and that. So, they're going to sell their iPhone 10s. But iPhone 10s are going to sell at roughly the same price as the iPhone XR, which is going for $749. I mean, if you've got iPhone 10, the average price would come in at the same. So, the reason they killed the iPhone 10 is not to cannibalise sales, but then at the same time, people selling used iPhone 10s is going to cannibalise it. And there's a simple reason for that. The iPhone 10 has an OLED display. It has a higher resolution. It's more premium. It has dual cameras, 3D touch, which is again missing from the iPhone XR, which we'll cover in a second, because there's a point I can see to that. And you're just getting all that for the same price, if not less, by the time these iPhones are all out. I mean, the XR's been slightly delayed, but by the time they're all out, it is going to just end badly for this company, really. So, if the iPhone 10's going to less, that makes, again, the XR pointless. And, you know, it is kind of a hard one to make, coming from a massive Apple fan, but then you have to look at it honestly, and this phone, yes, it has a point, I guess, and at the same time it's pointless. So we could cover both here, which, you know, we'll do a separate one to cover why it has a point, I guess, but today we're focusing on why it's pointless, with good reason, to be honest. Now, the next thing we'll cover is no 3D touch. This is kind of a funny one, because why it looks pointless, it's not totally pointless, really, for the simple reason that you don't really need 3D touch, and like all these websites anyway are saying, 3D touch is going to be removed in the future, like next year. The rumours and that are saying that. and it is kind of true, I guess, if they are going to remove it. All this iPhone does, now you might say that it's pointless because you can get 3D touch on all the other phones, but this phone has something called haptic touch, which basically does the same sort of thing. It's just not 3D touch, so it's sort of like the MacBook Pro trackpads and all that, and it's just different, but that looks to be the future anyway. So that is one respect where it's not pointless, because if that's happening, then all we're actually doing is heading into the future, I guess. So we're not going back or anything, we're just going forward, because that is one thing that the iPhone's going to have. Now, this phone obviously comes in different colours, so basically all they've done really is created another 5C. If you look at it, the iPhone 10's been discontinued. Now the base model is a 10R, okay, so all they've done is try to bring 50-50. I mean, it has some characteristics of older iPhones and newer iPhones, so all they've tried to do is bring 50-50 iPhone 10 / older iPhones, but then it would be a third each way, because it also goes newer iPhones. So they've sort of done what they did with the 5C, but in a different way, and everyone knows the 5C turned out bad, but this one looks to turn out successful. I mean, it's probably going to be popular, just probably not with like people that already have this newer hardware. The place where this one will probably be popular, simply put, is probably people coming from other iPhones, such as like 6s, 6S, possibly the 7, which, yes, it might be worth the upgrade, but even going back to the 6S, that phone is very quick. So is it worth the upgrade from that? Probably, if you've had it since launch, or you've had it a couple of years, yes. Other than that, no. It's just a pointless move in terms of what they're trying to do. But that is basically why it's pointless. I'm going to be looking at this from different angles and different views for the next few days. So, you know, you can look at it in quite a few different ways. We'll be covering the other new iPhones, the 10s, the 10s Max. They have a bit more point to them, but at the same time, the 10s, I'm gonna argue a case, because I can. And obviously, another one that we want to talk about is Apple's marketing. So we got enough coming up, but that is basically the views here on, you know, the iPhone 10R and why it's pointless, because we can't deny it. It's not the phone that has the most point to it, although it has some, which we will cover later, I guess, but just not right now. Yes, there is some point to it, and you know, I kind of look forward to covering that, but we'll have to wait and see what goes on here, and well, their future.